We're looking at 3 fretboards here. The normal guitar caged bottom string caged. According to this bottom string, I have the C string shape here. This is the C cage. According to this bottom string, I have the A string shape there. This is the A cage. According to this bottom string. But now, when we go to the 5-string warped P5, cello, fiddle, violin, top down. Now we're going to do top down caged. Why? Because there is a mirror right here. This is a mirror image right there. Mirror image, this and this. For the most part, it's not a perfect mirror image, so we don't draw it as a perfect mirror image because the P5 doesn't have the warped. So this is warped. So this is not an actual cello, fiddle, violin diagram, but this is. So that's the difference in the third chart. The third fretboard is normal P5 tuned cello, fiddle, violin. Let's look at the difference between these two. So we've already turned the cage upside down. So here's our 3, 4, 5. Here's our C shape C, right? And I've shown it warped here so you can still see that D shaped C. So when you go towards the fret nut, you're going up a pentatonic scale. The word cage, you go from C to the D from the word cage be in front of it. So C goes to D when you're going backwards, but that's a pentatonic scale. And caged is C, A, G, E, D, right? Reverse pentatonic scale, C, D, E, G, A. Okay, so there's your D shape, and it's upside down. That is a perfect reflection of the warp. So I was wrong. This is a perfect reflection here. Why? Because we've warped this. So if I said this wasn't a perfect reflection, it is, because it's warped just like the normal guitar is warped here. Okay? This is the X string here, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we've got the 3 and the 3, the same string shape, it's just upside down, but it's perfectly upside down. And there's our pentatonic advancement towards the fret nut in the D shape. Everyone knows that is an upside down D shape. Some letters, you turn them upside down, they're the same, but they're not, because now with the P5, if we did have 6 strings, it would have the 3 on the bottom, and usually the 3's on top because it's upside down. Now, let's take one of the strings off there. So we're not going to have our bass fiddle string down here, or that range, plus or minus a semitone. We wouldn't want to upset cello, we wouldn't want to upset bass by detuning the bass string 1. But it's not crazy to up-tune a bass string 1 by 1. Okay, and we talked about that, how to make a 3-string P5. And then you can take a cello player and say, hey, play your cello stuff on this bass. I've tuned it, it's just a 3-string. Don't panic. Just stay in the bass range. And they'll be like, whoa, I can't do that. So, but bass players could be, some people who enjoy bass lines and robust stuff, like, that kind of stuff. That bass line is nice. By the way, a lot of the time, if you're practicing cage on the P5 on the violin, you can keep that lower string. If you can't get the lower string, but you can get the others. So it's good for learning caged, because as you go up the neck, because you've got the same triad, root C, E, G, and you just keep that bottom string as the C. Okay, so from there's the A, And now we go to the G shape. What's the G shape going to be? Well, it's going to be difficult, but we know it's going to be an upside down G, right? So look at the spread on the fingers. There's your upside down G kind of thing. And then I can cheat and keep the bottom string as a C. Like that. Whoa, that got my tendon, but it felt good. We take that same thing up to the B, but for the E shape, remember it's cage, C-A-G-E. Now the E shape, we're going to go to the root there. So what do we got here? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to play those things when we get to chart 481. If we get to chart 481, if we have time for the majors, because the most important point to learn about majors and minors is when you play a minor triad, it can be a relative second, third, or a relative sixth. So it depends on how many flats you have. We're going to be looking at that very closely in the next chart here, and we might as well get there because we've got to do this today either way. So we'll jump around a little bit. It's Dorian, Aeolian, or Phrygian, depending on how many flats you select. But first, we definitely just want to add the flatted third. Let's look at this now. We've got root 5, then we're going to go 3 flat here instead of 3, and then the root 5 up here. Okay, so that's essentially our Dorian. Essentially, if we wanted to hit the 7 flat, that would pretty much be our Dorian in the key of B flat. This is why I'm saying it's a little difficult. So that's why for the triads, when we're just adjusting a major chord to a minor, I also add the extra flats because they help us determine what mode it's going to be. But certainly the most important flat